first. You might want, can you move your stools up just a little so that cord's a little short?
How about if we just stand and you can ask the question?
You want to stand?
Sure.
All right.
If you don't mind.
Sure. The first question, do you support the New Mexico Health Security Act? If so, why? If not, why not?
Well, first of all, healthcare is a very important issue for all of us. It's an issue that's important not just to elderly people or young people, but it's important to all of us because it represents the values of who we are as a country. I believe that we ought to look at health care for our children first and foremost. Children that need health care on a day-to-day basis. We have an obligation to our elderly people, to our elderly parents, grandparents, to have health care for them. We should support a program that gives them the opportunity to have health care and at the same time ensure that what we're doing in New Mexico is in line with what will happen at the national level. My biggest concern would be that we do something at the state level that contradicts what's happening at the national level, and then we find ourselves in a position that we cannot meet the obligations that we have told our citizens are important to us. This health care legislation ought to be legislation that works hand in hand with the federal government, and if the federal government won't lead, then we need to lead at the state. Because at the end of the day, our federal government needs to hear our voices loud and clear. That health care is important for all of us, and we take the step to make the decision and to move forward. So from my perspective, if the health care legislation is important for the country ought to respond, and if they don't, then we should do that in New Mexico.
And I mean, no disrespect, since this is a forum, we'll go by Ms. Linda Lopez and Misters, if that's all right with you all. Ms. Lopez?
That's fine, thank you. With regards to the Health Security Act, in my years in the legislature, I have supported it, I have signed on the bill, and will continue to do so. Healthcare is an issue that is so important to all of our communities across the state and across this country. When you look at the different communities that we have, both in mine and across the state as I travel our great state, there are many, many people who are in need. Even with the recent cuts that have happened in the disabilities program, that's something that should not happen, and if we can have something to say about it in the legislature and watch us do it, we will say no more. Because this is an issue that affects everybody. I've taken care of my mom as a senior. I've learned a lot about the issues about what affects our senior citizens. I understand and learn and continue to learn about what those necessities are. Our young people, we don't live forever. That little veil comes off that says that I'm invincible. Well, reality hits. You realize you do need health care. As a single parent with my son, I understand the value of it. When I went through a divorce, I was left without nothing. Medicaid was there to help me for my son, and I'm not ashamed to say of it. It helped. I've been there, and that's the difference that I can bring to the table because I've lived what a lot of our community members are going through. I understand the need, and I will continue to work hard and support any issue that comes in front of us. Whatever Congress is doing, we're already taking a hit on it at this point. We've taken some steps for the State Coverage Initiative and some other programs for our young children and families, but we need to make sure health care exists for everyone. And I will work hard as Lieutenant Governor to work with the Senate and my senators to make sure that we are voting the right way and find compromise in order to get that vote and to get this bill out. Thank you.
Mr. Campos.
Thank you very much. Healthcare, as we all know, is very critical just to have a good quality of life. In fact, I would be remiss if I wouldn't recognize my wife, who is a hospital administrator, and she would kill me if I wouldn't say that I would be supporting healthcare. My wife, Christina Campos. And then also my daughter, who's a neonatal nurse, right in the center, these waves. They are very involved in really providing good quality healthcare, affordable, and accessibility to that healthcare. Those of us, I've been in business for 24 years, and being in business is not always a pretty piece of pie. When my first two children were born, they they were born with midwives. We did not have health care. We were always taking a chance every year. But I was very fortunate with my third child, who was my son. He had some difficulties when he was born, and if we didn't have health care at that time, it would have cost us close to $38,000. He was in intensive care for 2 weeks. Quite a difference. It's a roll of the dice for those of us who did not have care there and do and don't. And I am a perfect example of also good health care. Just 2 years ago, I had a disc removed in my back. I was pretty much a cripple. Good health care is able to help people become productive citizens in our community. And it's just not something that is a privilege. It has to be a right. And when we talk about the Health Security Act, when Mary was putting these ideas together 5, 6 years ago, I was one of the legislators that sat down with her on how we can get this accomplished. What are the ideas, the goals to get everybody covered? And yes, I was one of the few that voted for it in business and industry last year. I do support health care for everyone, because again, it's not a privilege, it's a right.